The video call window flickered to life, revealing Marcus Thorne in his glass-walled, modern CEO office on the top floor. He barely glanced up from the tablet in his hand, where I could just make out the fluctuating lines of a stock chart, his attention clearly elsewhere. "We're implementing AI for organizational optimization, Ramsey," he announced, his voice devoid of any warmth, a stark contrast to the sleek, sunlit room behind him. "As a result, your position has been deemed redundant and is being eliminated, effective immediately." The entire pronouncement, delivered with chilling detachment, took less than 3 minutes of my life, yet it irrevocably altered its course. My name is Victor Ramsey. For 14 years, I poured my heart and soul into building the Eastern Division of Phoenix Apparel Solutions from a struggling idea, a mere whisper in the wind, into their top-performing unit, a beacon of stability and consistent growth. I didn't achieve this with slick, empty presentations or the hollow buzzwords so popular in corporate seminars. No, I built it on a foundation of trust, unwavering consistency, and good, old-fashioned honest work, day in and day out. I personally handled all our key accounts, knowing that relationships were the true currency of our business. I knew their operational concerns, sure, but I also knew about their families, their kids' graduations, their peculiar golf handicaps, the little quirks that made them human. These weren't just line items on a balance sheet. These were partnerships, forged over years, that brought in a substantial $4.2 million in annual contracts. The new CEO, Marcus Thorne, this harbinger of optimization, had been with Phoenix Apparel Solutions for exactly 8 weeks. A recent graduate of some prestigious business school PBS, he favored sharply tailored custom suits that probably cost more than my first car, and a buzzed haircut that screamed efficiency, or perhaps just a lack of imagination. He carried himself with an air of unearned authority, a man who believed his degree was a substitute for experience. In those 8 weeks, he'd never once asked me about the intricate web of our client relationships, the bedrock of our division's success. He never once inquired how we'd managed to grow an impressive 18% year over year, while other divisions of Phoenix Apparel stagnated or declined. He never showed an ounce of curiosity as to why Viridian Dynamics and Titan Holdings, our two largest and most influential accounts, specifically requested my personal involvement in every quarterly review call. It was as if the human element, the very soul of the business I had nurtured, was invisible to him, an irrelevant footnote in his grand, impersonal strategy. As the two impassive security guards silently escorted me to my office to pack my personal belongings, their presence a suffocating reminder of my new, unwelcome status, I noticed a long-serving woman from HR quickly look away, her face etched with a discomfort she couldn't hide. She'd been with the company even longer than my 14 years, a silent witness to its many evolutions, and now to this. Samuel Green, the current CFO, walked past my open door, then hesitated, his steps faltering, and doubled back, a pained, almost apologetic expression on his usually composed face. "Victor," he began, his voice low and troubled, but then he seemed to lose his words, the oppressive corporate atmosphere stifling whatever personal sentiment he might have wished to express. He just patted my shoulder, a quick, awkward gesture that spoke volumes of his internal conflict, and then hurried down the hall, a man clearly caught between company policy and personal conscience. I packed with a heavy heart, the silence of the once bustling office pressing in on me. Each item I carefully placed into the plain cardboard box felt like a piece of my history being archived away, dismissed. There were the smiling faces of Olivia and our daughter, Sophia, in a silver frame, a constant source of light and motivation on my desk through countless long days and pressing deadlines. The slightly tarnished fishing trophy, a playful gift from the Titan Holdings team after our surprisingly competitive company retreat years ago, a symbol of the genuine camaraderie that transcended mere business transactions. And then, a handwritten note, carefully preserved in a protective sleeve, from Isabella Rossi at Viridian Dynamics, her elegant, Decisive script thanking me profusely for pulling out all the stops to rush their critical order when her own boss was in a serious bind. A potential crisis averted thanks to our team's relentless dedication and my willingness to go the extra mile. 14 years of unwavering commitment, of complex challenges met and hard-won victories celebrated, of relationships painstakingly nurtured one conversation, one handshake at a time, were now being unceremoniously reduced to the impersonal confines of a single, unremarkable cardboard box. The emotional weight of it felt far heavier than its physical contents. I offered a respectful nod to the waiting security guards, men just doing their jobs, and walked to my car with a sense of dignity I didn't entirely feel, avoiding any unnecessary drama or empty threats. There was a hollowness inside me, a void where pride and purpose used to reside. In my rearview mirror, I watched the familiar glass tower of the Phoenix Apparel Solutions building shrink as I pulled away from the curb. Each foot of distance, a symbolic severing of ties. For the first time in 14 long years, I didn't feel the immense weight of 30 dedicated employees and millions of dollars in crucial contracts resting squarely on my shoulders. That sudden lightness should have felt liberating, a release from constant pressure. Instead, it felt profoundly, deeply wrong, like a vital part of me had been amputated without anesthetic. My journey with Phoenix Apparel, or its predecessor, began when they were still a fledgling operation, working out of a leased warehouse in Cedarburg, a far cry from the gleaming tower I was now leaving behind. Back then, we were just a tenacious group of underdogs, hungry and driven, trying to break into the competitive market of enterprise workwear solutions, targeting regional banks and healthcare companies. The Eastern Division, the one I was eventually tasked to lead, was hemorrhaging money at an alarming rate when they brought me in, a last-ditch effort to salvage something from the wreckage. I had a small team of 9 dispirited employees and a stark, unambiguous mandate from the then CEO: fix it, or we shut it down for good. The pressure was immense, the odds seemingly insurmountable. Over those grueling first 3 years, I personally drove thousands of miles, crisscrossing a 100-mile radius, meeting with every potential prospect I could identify. I didn't just sell, I listened. I learned about their frustrations, their pain points with their current suppliers, chronically late deliveries that disrupted their operations, poor quality control that reflected badly on their brand, inconsistent sizing that caused endless headaches for their employees. And then, systematically, methodically, I fixed all of that for them. I built a reputation for reliability, for quality, for truly understanding and responding to client needs. My team, sensing a genuine commitment to excellence and a leader who valued their input, grew from 9 to 15, then to 25 dedicated individuals. We outgrew the cramped warehouse and moved into a more professional, better-equipped office space, a tangible sign of our progress. I remember promoting Clara Mendes from customer service to account management when I witnessed her incredible poise and skill in handling even the most difficult and demanding clients, turning complaints into opportunities. I hired Julian Hayes fresh out of design school, a raw talent, when he presented me with mock-ups that not only looked good, but also solved practical problems we hadn't even fully articulated yet. He had a vision, an innovative spark. My daughter, Sophia, was just 12 when I embarked on that Northrise, now Phoenix Apparel journey. Now she's a bright, talented 26-year-old making her own way as a graphic designer in bustling New York City. I often wore the ties she designed. They were my lucky charms. My wife, Olivia, my rock and my confidant, supported every single late night I spent at the office, every weekend emergency that pulled me away from home, every urgent, last-minute flight I had to take to salvage a critical account teetering on the brink. "It's because you're building something that will last, Vic," I'd tell her, trying to justify the sacrifices, perhaps trying to convince myself as much as her. And she, with her unwavering faith in me, always believed. Her belief was often the fuel I needed. 3 different CEOs had come and gone during my 14-year tenure at the company. Each one, in their own way, had recognized and valued what we as a team had painstakingly built in the Eastern Division. The company transformed under their collective leaderships, evolving from a modest regional player into a formidable national competitor in the enterprise workwear solutions market. And my division, the one I poured my life into, consistently led the way in both revenue growth and client retention, a testament to our approach. The merger last year, however, changed everything. Peregrine Capital, a faceless investment group, bought us out and swiftly installed their own board of directors, a new set of overlords with a different agenda. Initially, I didn't worry excessively. In the world of business, numbers usually speak for themselves, and our numbers were undeniably strong. Or so I thought. But slowly, insidiously, the cracks began to show, fine fissures spreading through the foundation of the company culture we had built. Marcus Thorne arrived like a storm front, accompanied by his entourage of efficiency experts, armed with complex spreadsheets and a vocabulary filled with corporate jargon. They were data-driven to a fault, but they didn't understand the intangible, the delicate ecosystem of human relationships that truly held everything together, the trust that was our strongest asset. In countless meetings, they talked endlessly about client acquisition costs and margin optimization, but never, not once, did they speak of the value of client relationships or the importance of employee morale. It was all about the bottom line, devoid of any human consideration. 2 weeks before my abrupt termination, a lifetime in corporate maneuvering, Marcus Thorne requested a comprehensive report on all major accounts in my division. I dutifully compiled everything he asked for: current contract values, upcoming renewal dates, potential growth opportunities, all the quantifiable data points. What I didn't include, because you simply can't quantify such things on a sterile spreadsheet, was the afternoon I spent attending the funeral of the procurement director's father at Viridian Dynamics, not as a vendor, but as a fellow human being offering quiet support. Nor did I include the fact that I had personally driven to our warehouse at 2 a.m. on a cold Tuesday night to inspect Titan Holdings' first major order, ensuring every single item was absolutely perfect for their company-wide rollout the next day, because I knew how much it meant to them. These were the unwritten clauses in our contracts, the gestures that built unbreakable loyalty. So, when Thorne's assistant, with an air of strained politeness, scheduled our meeting for just 10 short minutes, a sliver of time hardly sufficient for a coffee break, let alone a discussion about a 14-year career, I knew. A cold dread settled in my stomach. I'd seen this brutal corporate ritual happen before to other long-serving, dedicated colleagues. I just never, ever thought it would happen to me. I had believed my results, my dedication, made me indispensable. I was wrong. The morning after I was unceremoniously let go, I sat in my small home office, the room suddenly feeling too quiet, too empty. I stared blankly at my personal phone, its screen dark and silent. No messages from work. I corrected myself, my former work. The silence was deafening, a stark contrast to the usual barrage of early morning calls and texts. Olivia, my ever-perceptive Olivia, who had been a patient elementary school teacher before channeling her creativity into a part-time art class for local children, brought me a steaming mug of coffee, her touch gentle as she squeezed my shoulder. Her presence was a quiet comfort in the storm raging within me. "What are you thinking, Vic?" she asked softly, her eyes full of a concern that mirrored my own unease. I took a slow sip of the coffee, its warmth doing little to dispel the chill that had settled deep in my bones. "They just don't understand what they've truly done, Olivia," I said, my voice a low murmur, more to myself than to her. "They don't understand the value of what they've just thrown away." What surprised me most was that I wasn't consumed by a fiery anger, not yet anyway. Instead, I felt a strange, almost unnerving clarity, a sharpness of thought I hadn't experienced in years, as if a heavy fog had suddenly lifted. I opened my personal laptop, bypassing the now inaccessible company network, and looked at my own contacts, not the official Phoenix Apparel database, but my meticulously kept personal records, names, direct numbers, personal email addresses, notes on birthdays and anniversaries. 14 years of genuine connections, authentic relationships cultivated with care. Now my only real professional assets. The first call, shattering the morning's oppressive silence, came precisely at 9:30 a.m. It was Isabella Rossi from Viridian Dynamics, her voice usually so confident and commanding, now tinged with a note of uncertainty. "Victor, we just received a rather impersonal mass email about some organizational changes at Phoenix Apparel. Please tell me you're not personally affected by this?" I took a slow, deliberate breath, steeling myself. "Isabella, I was let go yesterday," I replied, keeping my tone, even professional, though the words felt like ashes in my mouth. The silence on the other end of the line spoke volumes, a heavy pause pregnant with unspoken implications. Who? Who is taking over the Viridian accounts?" she asked finally, the question laced with obvious concern. "They didn't even have the courtesy to inform us directly." "They didn't say," I told her truthfully. "I can only assume it will be one of Marcus Thorne's new team members, someone he trusts to implement his vision." Another pause, longer this time. I could almost hear the gears turning in her sharp, analytical mind. "We have our major contract renewal coming up in just 6 weeks, Victor, as you know," Isabella said, her voice now regaining its familiar business-like edge. "I need to be completely frank with you. Our board only approved staying with Phoenix Apparel last time, despite some very competitive offers from your rivals, because of you, because of the trust we have in your leadership and your team's ability to deliver. The pricing from Phoenix was noticeably higher than some of the other proposals, but you always delivered, Victor. You always anticipated issues and fixed problems before they even became significant problems for us." I didn't respond immediately, letting her words sink in. It was a bittersweet affirmation of everything I had strived for. In the background, I could faintly hear the rhythmic tapping of her pen against her desk, a familiar habit she had when she was contemplating difficult or strategic decisions. "I need to discuss this immediately with my team here at Viridian," she said finally, her tone decisive. "This changes things considerably. Can I call you back on this number later today, Victor?" "Of course, Isabella," I replied, a flicker of something, a hope, validation, igniting within me. "I'll be here." After hanging up, a sense of profound unreality washing over me, I walked downstairs and sat at our familiar kitchen table, the heart of our home. Olivia was preparing lunch, the simple, comforting domestic ritual, a stark contrast to the corporate drama unfolding in my life. Her presence, as always, was a steadying anchor. She glanced at me, her expression a mixture of concern and quiet strength. "You okay, Vic?" she asked, already knowing the answer was complex. I managed a nod, trying to project a confidence I didn't fully feel. "I think I will be, Olivia," I said, more a statement of intent than a reflection of my current state. "Yes, I think I will be." Just then, my phone buzzed on the table with an incoming text message. It was from Julian Hayes, my talented and loyal design lead at Phoenix Apparel, a young man I'd mentored since he was fresh out of art school. His message was short and alarming. "Victor, Thorne called an emergency all-hands meeting for our division. He's demanding all client contact info and project files for your key accounts. No one is giving him straight answers. People are resistant. What on earth is happening?" I read the message, a grim understanding dawning. Thorne was already scrambling, trying to assert control over a situation he clearly didn't comprehend. I set the phone down on the polished wood of the table without replying to Julian. Not yet. I needed to think. Later that afternoon, the calls continued. Harold from Titan Holdings, a man I'd shared countless early morning coffees with, his voice gruff with disbelief. Then Michael from Eastern Bank, always meticulous and detail-oriented, now audibly flustered. Then Stephanie from Bright Healthcare Systems, a rapidly growing enterprise whose complex needs we had painstakingly learned to anticipate, her tone one of sheer astonishment. The conversations all followed a distressingly similar pattern. Initial shock and disbelief at my sudden departure, followed by deep-seated concerns about the future of their relationship with Phoenix Apparel, and pointed questions about the status of their ongoing contracts and projects. I was honest and transparent with each of them, careful not to let any personal bitterness creep into my voice. I didn't badmouth Phoenix Apparel or Marcus Thorne, as tempting as that might have been. That wasn't my style. I simply answered their questions directly and truthfully. Yes, it was true. I had been terminated. No, unfortunately, I wasn't aware of any formal transition plan for my accounts or my team. Yes, I was currently considering my options going forward. By the time evening descended, casting long shadows across my home office, I had 5 missed calls from Marcus Thorne himself. His desperation was palpable even through the silence of unanswered calls. I didn't return them. I wasn't ready to engage on his terms. That night, after Olivia had gone to bed, I opened my personal laptop again and created a new spreadsheet, one that had nothing to do with Phoenix Apparel's declining fortunes. It was not a list of clients or contracts, but a meticulously organized inventory of possibilities. Companies that had discreetly tried to recruit me over the years, competitors who I knew might value someone with my specific experience and deep-rooted connections, even the daunting but intriguing option of starting my own consulting firm, leveraging the trust I had built. For 14 years, I had diligently built bridges for Phoenix Apparel Solutions, connecting them to success. Now I had to decide whether to metaphorically burn those bridges in a blaze of resentment or to start constructing new ones, this time exclusively for myself and for those who believed in my way of doing business. With a newfound sense of resolve, I chose the latter. The game was far from over. 3 days after my termination, Marcus Thorne's increasingly urgent texts escalated to direct calls. I let each one go to voicemail, the sound of his clipped, demanding voice filling my message bank, a testament to his growing unease. On the 4th day, a Saturday morning, as I was tinkering with the engine of my old Chevy in the garage, a therapeutic, hands-on distraction from the corporate chaos, I finally picked up, bracing myself. "Victor, we absolutely need to talk," he said, his voice significantly tighter, more strained than it had been in our last, brutally brief video meeting. The arrogance was still there, but now it was overlaid with a thin veneer of panic. "Some rather serious concerns have come up with several of our key accounts." I wiped grease from my hands onto an old rag, letting the silence stretch for a moment, enjoying the small shift in power dynamics. "I'm sure your new team is more than capable of handling it, Thorne," I replied, my voice calm, almost nonchalant, a stark contrast to his evident agitation. "That's just it, Ramsey," he snapped, the use of my surname a clear indicator of his frustration. "Viridian Dynamics is threatening to pull their contract. They're actually saying they only worked with us because of you." His emphasis on the last word was heavy with disbelief and a dawning, unwelcome understanding. I watched a vibrant red cardinal land gracefully on the bird feeder just outside my kitchen window, a small, beautiful moment of peace amidst the turmoil. "Well, Thorne," I said, turning my attention back to the phone, "that's entirely their decision to make, isn't it?" A frustrated sigh came through the receiver. "Look, Ramsey, maybe we moved a little too quickly with some of these restructuring changes," Thorne continued, his tone shifting slightly, an attempt at conciliation, however clumsy. "The board is understandably concerned about the potential revenue impact. Significant impact." He paused, then delivered his offer. "We could discuss a temporary consulting arrangement to help with the transition, ensure a smooth handover. Generous terms, of course." For a fleeting moment, I actually considered it a consulting gig would certainly be easy money, a comfortable cushion while I figured out my next permanent move. But something felt fundamentally off about his sudden, pragmatic change of heart. It wasn't about respect or recognition. It was purely about damage control, about his own skin. "I appreciate the offer, Thorne. I truly do," I said, injecting a note of polite finality into my voice. But I find I need some time to consider my future. I'll think about it. I knew I wouldn't. That afternoon, I met Arthur Finch for coffee at a quiet cafe downtown. Arthur, a man of considerable experience and dry wit, had been Phoenix Apparel's CFO before the Peregrine Capital merger and, like many seasoned executives who didn't fit the new mold, had also been unceremoniously pushed out. He still had a network of well-placed friends within corporate headquarters, ears to the ground. Marcus Thorne is in full-blown panic mode, Victor, Arthur said, stirring his black coffee with a thoughtful expression, his eyes twinkling with a certain grim satisfaction. Apparently, both Viridian Dynamics and Titan Holdings have sent formal letters to the board. They've officially indicated they will not be renewing their contracts when they come up. He took a sip of his coffee. They cited loss of key relationship personnel and concerns about leadership instability, which is pretty much standard corporate speak for, "We only trusted Victor Ramsey, and you fools let him go." I nodded slowly, absorbing the information. I felt a strange, conflicting mix of validation for my own efforts and genuine concern for my former team members, the good people still caught in Thorne's chaotic wake. "There's more, Victor," Arthur continued, leaning in slightly, his voice dropping. Thorne, in a desperate attempt to save his own hide, apparently told the board, and I quote, "Ramsey is actively sabotaging the company. He's calling our clients and telling them to leave Phoenix Apparel." I set my coffee cup down with a sharp click, a surge of indignation rising within me. "I haven't told a single soul to do anything of the sort, Arthur," I stated firmly, my voice tight with restrained anger. "I've simply taken their calls, which they initiated, and I've answered their questions honestly and factually. That's all." "That's not how Marcus Thorne is painting the picture to the board," Arthur warned, his expression serious. "He's trying to build a narrative, a legal case that you violated some non-existent clause in your termination agreement. He might even try to claw back your severance package." The audacity of it, the sheer, unadulterated gall, was breathtaking. On my drive home from the cafe, my mind still reeling from Arthur's revelations, Thorne called again. This time, his name flashing on my car's display felt like an accusation. I let it go to voicemail, my patience wearing dangerously thin. When I listened to the message later, his tone had undergone a complete, almost comical transformation. The desperation was now thinly veiled with an unconvincing layer of magnanimity. "Victor, it's Marcus Thorne," his recorded voice began, smoother now, almost placating. "I think there's been a significant misunderstanding here, a miscommunication perhaps. We at Phoenix Apparel and the board deeply value everything you've built here over the years. Truly. A blatant lie, and we both knew it. In light of this, the board has authorized me to offer you a new position, Senior Vice President, a much better title, a significantly improved compensation package, better than before. Call me back, Victor. We absolutely should discuss this as soon as possible." I deleted the message without a second thought. His clumsy attempt at manipulation was almost insulting. That evening, as I was reviewing my personal spreadsheet of opportunities, my phone rang with an unfamiliar number. It was Alistair Cole. He was the dynamic CEO of Apex Vanguard Outfitters, a smaller, more agile competitor in the enterprise workwear solutions space, a company known for its innovative approach and strong company culture. Alistair had tried to recruit me twice over the past 5 years, impressed by what he'd called my principled leadership. "Victor, Alistair Cole here," he said, his voice energetic and direct. "I heard through the grapevine what happened over at Phoenix Apparel. Frankly, their loss is, potentially, our significant gain. My previous offers still stand, Victor, but given the circumstances, I'd like to sweeten the pot considerably. Senior VP of a new innovation and client solutions division, you build it, you run it, a substantial equity stake in Apex Vanguard. And, most importantly, complete autonomy and control over your client relationships and your team." He paused, letting the generous offer sink in. "No interference, no second guessing, just results." I was genuinely impressed by his decisiveness and the level of trust he was extending. I told him I was very interested, but needed a few days to consider all my options carefully. He understood completely. That same night, as if orchestrated by some malevolent force, I received a formal threatening email from Phoenix Apparel Solutions, legal department. It was filled with dense legalese, accusing me of being in violation of non-solicitation agreements and implying swift litigation if I didn't immediately cease and desist from any and all interference with company relationships. It was a clear attempt at intimidation, undoubtedly orchestrated by a panicked Thorne. I calmly forwarded the entire email chain to Paul Henderson, an old college friend who was now a sharp, successful corporate lawyer, with only a brief two-word comment. Your thoughts? Next morning, I had my answer. Paul Henderson called me early, his voice crisp and reassuring. Victor, this legal threat from Phoenix Apparel? It's paper thin, almost laughable, he said, a hint of amusement in his tone. They're just trying to bully you, to intimidate you into inaction. Standard procedure for a failing management team. But here's the kicker. I pulled up and reviewed your original employment contract with them. You never actually signed a non-solicitation agreement, Victor. The standard non-compete clause they had you sign only prevents you from joining a direct, named competitor for a period of 6 months. Crucially, it doesn't say a single word about preventing clients from choosing to follow you if you go elsewhere. I remembered signing that contract 14 long years ago in a very different, more honorable era of the company. The old CEO, a man of integrity, had been straightforward and honest about it. Victor, this clause just prevents you from taking all our proprietary training and immediately jumping ship to our biggest rival across the street. It's nothing nefarious, nothing about client relationships. We trust you. Times had certainly changed. So, to be absolutely clear, Paul, I asked, a weight lifting from my shoulders. I've done nothing wrong legally? Nothing they can actually pin on me? Not a single thing, Victor, he confirmed unequivocally. You're clean. In fact, he added, a new, more aggressive note in his voice. If they're foolish enough to pursue this baseless claim, we could very easily countersue for wrongful termination. The abrupt nature of your dismissal, the clear lack of a proper transition plan for a senior leader of your standing courts don't look favorably on that kind of reckless corporate behavior, especially when it impacts shareholder value, which it clearly is. I thanked him profusely for his swift and clear counsel and hung up, a renewed sense of confidence surging through me. Just as I put the phone down, a new email pinged in my inbox. It was from Clara Mendes, my former stellar account manager at Phoenix Apparel, a woman of immense capability and quiet integrity. The subject line was stark and intriguing. Victor, you absolutely should know this. My heart skipped a beat. She'd attached an internal PowerPoint presentation dated from 2 weeks before my termination. It was Marcus Thorne's confidential strategic plan for the Eastern Division. He had meticulously mapped out a complete, ruthless restructuring. The plan, laid out in cold, hard bullet points, included eliminating my position entirely, regardless of my division's outstanding performance. It detailed replacing experienced, and therefore more expensive, staff like myself and others with cheaper, recent graduates who would be more pliable. And most cynically, it outlined a strategy of raising prices on long-term, loyal clients by a staggering 15% or more once their current contracts came up for renewal after I was out of the picture and unable to object. A chilling note on slide 12, under a heading, Risk Mitigation, read, Current relationship dependent business model in Eastern Division presents significant long-term risk and margin limitations. Imperative to transition to a system-dependent, standardized model to maximize profitability and shareholder value. They hadn't fired me because I was failing or because my division was underperforming. They had fired me precisely because I was succeeding, but in a way that didn't neatly fit their impersonal, spreadsheet-driven vision of the future. A vision that prioritized short-term profits over long-term stability and trust. Even more disturbing and far more personal was a hidden slide at the end of the presentation, likely not intended for wider circulation. It contained a list of synergy-driven team reduction targets for my division. Julian Hayes, Clara Mendes, and three other key, high-performing members of my core team were clearly marked for termination as soon as I was gone and the initial dust had settled. Thorne was planning to systematically dismantle everything I had built, piece by piece, person by person. I printed the entire damning document and sat with it at my kitchen table, the stark black and white printout feeling heavy in my hands. Olivia, sensing the gravity of the moment, came and read over my shoulder, her expression growing increasingly grim with each slide she absorbed. "Oh, Vic," she said quietly, her voice laced with a mixture of anger and disbelief. "They were actively planning to dismantle everything you poured your life into building, and they were going to blame you for the fallout. And not just dismantle it, Olivia," I added, a cold fury now solidifying within me. "They were going to gut the team, the very people who made that success possible. And yes, you're right, they were undoubtedly planning to blame any subsequent client defections or revenue drop squarely on me, on my outdated methods." My phone buzzed on the table, another urgent text from Marcus Thorne. "Board meeting scheduled for tomorrow morning. We need to discuss reconciliation and your return ASAP. Please call me. Urgent." I ignored it, setting the phone face down. My gaze returned to the printed presentation, to Thorne's callous, calculated plan. The very last slide, a masterpiece of corporate self-delusion, showed Phoenix Apparel's projected revenue and profit margins after all these necessary changes were implemented. A projected 22% increase in margins, all predicated on the ludicrous assumption that every single client would passively stay put despite significant price hikes and a guaranteed reduction in service levels and experience support. It was, in every sense of the word, a house of cards, built on a foundation of arrogance and greed. And I knew, with absolute certainty, that it was about to come crashing down. I picked up my phone, not to call Thorne, but to call Alistair Cole at Apex Vanguard Outfitters. "Alistair, it's Victor Ramsey," I said when he answered. "I've considered your generous offer. I'm very interested, with one non-negotiable condition." "Name it, Victor," Alistair replied without a moment's hesitation, his voice keen. "I want to bring my core team with me, 5 specific, exceptionally talented people. They are integral to what I do, to the success we can build together." "Done," he answered instantly. "No deliberation, no caveats. Consider them part of the package. When can you and your team start?" The decisiveness, the trust, it was a breath of fresh air after the suffocating atmosphere at Phoenix Apparel. "Give us 2 weeks to transition properly," I replied, a surge of adrenaline coursing through me. "And Alistair, I'll need official, written offer letters for all 6 of us by the end of today, if possible. We need to move quickly. They'll be in your inbox before dinner, Victor. Welcome aboard." That evening, I made a series of calls that would change several lives for the better. First, I called Julian Hayes, then Clara Mendes, then the 3 other loyal team members whose names had been on Thorne's despicable cut list. I explained everything calmly and methodically. My own termination, the details of Thorne's ruthless restructuring plan, the fact that their own careers at Phoenix Apparel were on borrowed time, and the existence of their names on that list. Then I told them about Alistair Cole's offer from Apex Vanguard Outfitters, the new division, the opportunities, the chance to build something special together on our own terms. All 5 said yes immediately, without a moment's hesitation. Their relief was palpable, their enthusiasm infectious. I slept better that night than I had slept in years, certainly better than any night since Thorne's shadow had fallen over Phoenix Apparel. I didn't return any of Marcus Thorne's increasingly frantic calls or desperate emails. He was no longer my concern. Instead, I began scheduling discreet meetings with our top clients, the ones whose loyalty Thorne had so arrogantly taken for granted. Not to poach them, not yet. My non-compete was still technically in effect, and Paul Henderson had advised caution. These were simply checking in as a concerned friend meetings. I met Isabella Rossi from Viridian Dynamics for lunch at a quiet Italian restaurant near her downtown office. Victor, we're not renewing with Phoenix Apparel, she stated unequivocally before the waiter had even brought our menus. Her decision was already made. The real question for us now is where we go next. We need a partner we can trust, someone who understands our business as well as you do. Isabella, you know I can't actively solicit Viridian's business right now, I explained carefully, choosing my words with precision. Legally, for the next few weeks, I need to be extremely careful about how these conversations are framed. She smiled, a knowing, confident smile that reached her eyes. I understand completely, Victor. Discretion is paramount, she said. But, just hypothetically speaking, of course, if you were to find yourself working somewhere, perhaps at a dynamic and innovative company that offered services similar to what we currently require, we at Viridian Dynamics would be very interested in following you there. Your leadership is the key variable for us. By the end of that week, I'd had remarkably similar, carefully worded conversations with all 5 of my former major clients. The sentiment was unanimous. Their loyalty was to me and my team, not to the Phoenix Apparel brand, and certainly not to its new, out-of-touch leadership. None of them, tellingly, had received so much as a courtesy call from Marcus Thorne or anyone else senior at Phoenix Apparel attempting to salvage these multi-million-dollar relationships. His arrogance was truly boundless. Meanwhile, as promised, Apex Vanguard Outfitters sent formal, attractive offer letters to me and my 5 core team members. One by one, with a mixture of relief and quiet satisfaction, they submitted their resignations at Phoenix Apparel Solutions, leaving Thorne to deal with the rapidly imploding aftermath. The following Monday morning, bright and early, Marcus Thorne showed up at my house, unannounced and uninvited. I was in the garage, sleeves rolled up, finding solace in the familiar rhythm of working on my old Chevy, a tangible problem I could actually fix with my own 2 hands when his gleaming, ostentatious Mercedes pulled abruptly into my driveway. "We need to talk, Victor." "Now," he said, stepping out of his car, his expensive suit looking entirely out of place in my suburban driveway. Anxiety was written plainly across his usually arrogant face. The corporate mask was slipping. "This entire situation has gone much too far. It's getting out of control." His voice was tight, laced with a desperation he could no longer conceal. "The board is breathing down my neck constantly. Key team members are resigning in droves, and our most important clients are openly threatening to leave. It's a catastrophe." "Sounds challenging, Thorne," I replied calmly, slowly wiping grease from my hands onto a faded rag, deliberately taking my time. I gestured vaguely towards his luxury car. "Unfortunately for you, I've already accepted a new position elsewhere. I start in 2 weeks." His face flushed a deep, angry red. The composure he was struggling to maintain shattered. "You're joining a competitor? Apex Vanguard, I presume?" he sputtered, his voice rising. "That's a clear violation of your non-compete agreement. Ramsey, we'll sue you. We'll sue Apex." "Actually, Thorne, Apex Vanguard Outfitters isn't on the restricted list of companies in my original contract," I stated calmly, meeting his furious gaze without flinching. "My lawyer, Paul Henderson, confirmed it just yesterday. You might want to have your own legal team double-check their facts before making empty threats." "You're talking to lawyers now, Victor?" Thorne pressed, his eyes narrowing, a hint of disbelief in his voice. "Be reasonable, man. This is just business. Whatever Apex Vanguard is offering you, whatever it is, we'll beat it. We'll double it. Just name your price to fix this mess." I slowly closed the hood of my Chevy with a decisive click, the sound echoing slightly in the quiet garage. "It's not about the money, Thorne," I said, my voice quiet but firm. I walked a little closer to him so he could see the conviction in my eyes. "It actually never was about the money for me." "Then what is it you want, Ramsey?" he demanded, his frustration boiling over, his fists clenched at his sides. "A bigger office. Fancier title? Just name it. I looked at him directly then, truly seeing the panicked, out-of-his-depth executive beneath the expensive facade. I wanted respect, Thorne, I said, my voice resonating with 14 years of suppressed frustration, respect for 14 years of dedication, of building something truly valuable from absolutely nothing. I wanted a genuine conversation about the future, not a dismissive 3-minute video call firing. And most importantly, I continued, my voice rising slightly with controlled anger. I wanted my team, the people who trusted me and worked tirelessly alongside me, to be protected and valued, not callously targeted for elimination just to pad some misleading figures on your damn spreadsheets. His expression shifted, a flicker of dawning comprehension, and perhaps fear in his eyes as he realized I knew about his secret restructuring plan, the one that targeted my team. That document was just a draft, he stammered, his earlier bluster deflating rapidly. A theoretical scenario planning exercise. Nothing more. Internal discussion points only. His attempt to lie was pathetic, almost pitiable. Goodbye, Thorne, I said, the words carrying a weight of finality. I turned and walked past him, heading towards the sanctuary of my house, leaving him standing alone by his ostentatious car in my modest driveway. The board will fight this, Ramsey, he called after me, his voice a mixture of desperation and bluster. We'll sue you. We'll sue Apex Vanguard. We'll sue everyone involved in this conspiracy. I paused at my doorstep and turned back one last time to face him, a cool, appraising look in my eyes. You can certainly try, Thorne, I said, my voice even and steady. But before you embark on that costly and undoubtedly public legal crusade, I suggest you ask yourself one simple question. What ultimately will cost your shareholders more? Letting me and my team and our clients walk away quietly? Or a very public, very messy legal battle that will force you to explain to the world and to your investors precisely why all your major clients and your top-performing talent decided to leave Phoenix Apparel Solutions simultaneously, right after your brilliant restructuring? He had no answer for that. His face went pale. The fight visibly drained out of him, leaving behind only the shell of an arrogant man facing the consequences of his own hubris. A week later, I started my new role at Apex Vanguard Outfitters, energized and focused. 2 weeks after that, my non-compete period with Phoenix Apparel Solutions officially and uneventfully ended. Within a month, 4 of our 5 major, long-standing clients from my tenure at Phoenix Apparel had signed new, lucrative contracts with Apex Vanguard Outfitters. Each one specifically requested in writing that I, Victor Ramsey, be assigned as their primary account manager and strategic lead. The 5th was in final negotiations. I never called anyone else at Phoenix Apparel. There was no need. I never spoke badly about the company or Marcus Thorne in public. My integrity wouldn't allow it, and besides, their actions spoke far louder than any words I could offer. I didn't have to lift a finger in retaliation. The market and the simple power of trusted relationships did it for me. 6 months after I joined Apex Vanguard, I was in my new, spacious office, reviewing our division's impressive quarterly numbers well ahead of projections, when Alistair Cole, the CEO, knocked on my open door. "Victor, you might want to see this," he said, a slight, knowing smile playing on his lips as he placed his tablet in front of me. It was a lead article from a prominent financial news website, the kind Marcus Thorne probably read religiously. The headline was stark and unambiguous. Phoenix Apparel Solutions CEO Marcus Thorne steps down amid significant financial shortfall and shareholder pressure. The article went on to detail, in rather unforgiving terms, how Phoenix Apparel had catastrophically missed its quarterly earnings projections by a staggering 18%. The Eastern Division, my former territory, the one Thorne had so confidently planned to optimize, had reportedly seen nearly 40% of its established business evaporate in a matter of months. A direct consequence of his genius, no doubt. The board, facing an investor revolt, had reluctantly accepted Marcus Thorne's resignation, effective immediately. He was gone. I handed the tablet back to Alistair without a word, my expression carefully neutral. Inside, however, a quiet sense of vindication settled. "You don't seem particularly surprised, Victor," Alistair noted, observing me keenly. "It's hard to build lasting business relationships, Alistair," I replied, leaning back in my chair, "especially when your only tools are spreadsheets and a complete disregard for the human element." That afternoon, I received a LinkedIn message. It was from Samuel Green, the still employed CFO of the now floundering Phoenix Apparel Solutions. "Victor," his message read, concise and to the point. "The board is meeting tomorrow to discuss urgent recovery strategies for the company. Your name, as you might imagine, came up multiple times. Would you perhaps be open to a confidential conversation about the future of Phoenix Apparel?" I read the message, a wry smile touching my lips. The irony was not lost on me. I didn't respond. Instead, I turned my attention back to finalizing our team's quarterly presentation for Viridian Dynamics. Our Apex Vanguard team had successfully delivered their new, custom-designed enterprise workwear solutions 2 weeks ahead of an already aggressive schedule. The feedback from Isabella Rossi and her entire organization had been overwhelmingly positive, ecstatic even. Isabella, true to her word and thrilled with our performance, had already personally introduced us to 2 other significant potential clients within her extensive professional network. Business was booming. The next day, my old friend Arthur Finch called, his voice practically buzzing with news. "Victor, I thought you'd want to know the latest from the rumor mill," he said. "Peregrine Capital is desperately trying to sell off Phoenix Apparel Solutions, what's left of it anyway. They're looking for a quick exit before it completely implodes. The stock is down another 22% since you officially left, and those big accounts followed you to Apex. Thorne's brief tenure was an unmitigated disaster." "Who's buying Arthur?" I asked, genuinely curious. "Well, that's the interesting part, Victor. So far, there are no serious takers, at least not at the price Peregrine is hoping for," Arthur replied. "The word on the street is they're trying to reach out to you again through various back channels and intermediaries. Apparently, the remaining board members at Phoenix, the ones who survived the purge, now believe you're the only one who can possibly stabilize the critical client relationships and salvage what's left of the company's reputation." I thanked Arthur for the valuable information, and after hanging up, went right back to work, focusing on building something new and strong at Apex Vanguard. Later that day, I took my entire Apex Vanguard team, Julian, Clara, and the others who had bravely made the leap with me out for a celebratory lunch. We were celebrating our first 2 consecutive quarters of remarkable, record-breaking growth. Julian Hayes, his creative energy now fully unleashed, showed us preliminary sketches for an innovative new product line that had the potential to be a game-changer in the industry. Clara Mendes, thriving in her expanded role, shared glowing updates on client feedback and a pipeline full of new prospects. We discussed Apex Vanguard's ambitious expansion plans in which our new division was playing a central role. No one at the table mentioned Phoenix Apparel Solutions. It was already a fading memory, a cautionary tale. That evening, as I was relaxing at home with Olivia, I received a direct, personal email. It was from Victoria Sterling, the distinguished and usually unflappable board chair of Phoenix Apparel Solutions, and by extension, a representative of Peregrine Capital. "Mr. Ramsey," it began, the formality a stark contrast to the desperation underlying her words. "The situation at Phoenix Apparel Solutions has, regrettably, become untenable. We, the board, acknowledge that we made a grave error in judgment regarding the recent leadership changes and strategic direction. To that end, we would like to formally inquire if you would consider returning to Phoenix Apparel Solutions, this time as Chief Executive Officer. You would have complete operational autonomy, a significant equity stake in the company, and an immediate board seat. Essentially, Victor, you can name your terms. We need your help to save this company." I read the email twice, letting the weight of her extraordinary offer sink in. The irony was almost overwhelming. The very people who had orchestrated my humiliating dismissal were now begging me to return, offering me the keys to the entire kingdom. I closed my laptop without replying. I needed to discuss this with my team first. The next morning, I called an early meeting with my core team at Apex Vanguard, Julian, Clara, and the others. I want you all to hear this directly from me before any rumors start circulating, I began, looking each of them in the eye. I have been formally approached by the board of Phoenix Apparel Solutions about returning to the company. They've offered me the position of CEO. A moment of silence hung in the room, then Julian Hayes nodded slowly, a knowing look on his face. Figured they'd try something like that eventually, Victor, he said. They must be truly desperate. Clara Mendes smiled, a small, confident smile. It's far too little, far too late for them, wouldn't you say, Mr. Ramsey? She remarked. Exactly, Clara, I said, a genuine smile spreading across my own face. Far too little, and much, much too late. We're building something far better, something truly special, right here at Apex Vanguard. And we're just getting started. A collective sigh of relief, mixed with renewed determination, filled the room. Our path was clear. That afternoon, I sent a brief, polite email response to Ms. Sterling. Ms. Sterling, I wrote, I appreciate the board's offer and your confidence in me. However, I must respectfully decline. I am fully committed to my current position and the exciting future we are building at Apex Vanguard Outfitters. I sincerely wish Phoenix Apparel Solutions the very best in navigating its current challenges and finding a path forward. I hit send without a moment's hesitation or regret. 3 days later, the news broke, sending ripples throughout the industry. Apex Vanguard Outfitters had strategically acquired the entire Eastern Division of Phoenix Apparel Solutions, my former division, the jewel that Thorne had so carelessly tarnished in a swift, decisive asset purchase. The official press release, carefully crafted by Alistair and myself, highlighted the move as reuniting key, proven talent with established, long-term client relationships, ensuring continuity and enhanced service. Alistair Cole, a master negotiator, had quietly orchestrated the deal behind the scenes, paying mere pennies on the dollar for what had once been Phoenix Apparel's most profitable and respected crown jewel. The Peregrine Capital Board, facing mounting losses and no other viable offers, had no real choice in the matter. It was either sell the division to us at a steep discount or watch it collapse entirely into insolvency. I never had to strike back directly at Phoenix Apparel or Marcus Thorne. I never had to engage in their petty games. The market, driven by the undeniable power of trust and competence, did it for me. 1 year to the day after my unceremonious termination from Phoenix Apparel Solutions, I found myself driving past their former Eastern Division office building. The bold, dynamic Apex Vanguard Outfitters logo now hung proudly where the tired Phoenix Apparel sign had once been. The building itself looked much the same from the outside, a familiar landmark. But everything inside, the culture, the energy, the purpose, had profoundly changed for the better. We had successfully rehired several of the talented staff members who had been callously let go or had resigned in disgust during Marcus Thorne's brief, disastrous tenure. We had also managed to recover and revitalize 3 more significant client relationships that had deteriorated badly after my departure, clients who were now thrilled to be back under our team's dedicated care. The division, now an integral and thriving part of Apex Vanguard, was already generating more revenue with higher client satisfaction scores than it ever had under the old Phoenix Apparel regime. I parked my car across the street and watched for a few minutes as employees began leaving for the day. Familiar, smiling faces mixed with new, enthusiastic ones. They looked happy, engaged, purposeful, a stark contrast to the anxious, uncertain atmosphere that had pervaded the place a year ago. When I got home that evening, Olivia was in the kitchen, the comforting aroma of her famous apple pie, my absolute favorite, filling the air. I drove by the old office building today, I told her, leaning against the counter, watching her expertly crimp the pie crust. She studied my expression carefully, her gaze knowing and insightful. Nostalgia, Vic? Or a sense of closure? Definitely closure, I think, I replied, a genuine sense of peace settling over me. Complete and total closure. She nodded, a warm smile gracing her lips. I remembered, it's been exactly 1 year today since. Well, since everything changed, she said softly. That's why I decided to make your favorite tonight. A little celebration. Over a delicious dinner, featuring that incredible apple pie, our daughter Sophia called from her apartment in New York. She was bubbling with excitement, eager to share news about a major, prestigious project her graphic design firm had just landed. That's fantastic, sweetheart. We're so proud of you, I said, my heart swelling with fatherly pride. So, how's the new job really going, Dad? She asked, her voice full of genuine interest. Are you happy there? It's good, Sophia. Really good, I replied, catching Olivia's eye across the table. We're building something truly special, something that will last. They were the exact same words I had used so many times during those 14 challenging years at Phoenix Apparel, words I had desperately wanted to believe. But this time, spoken in the context of Apex Vanguard, surrounded by trust and respect, I knew, deep in my bones, that they were absolutely true. Later that evening, after Sophia's call, I received a brief text message from Arthur Finch. Victor, thought you'd want the final update, it read. Phoenix Apparel's remaining, unprofitable divisions just got acquired in a fire sale by Cerberus conglomerate. It was a clean sweep. There's officially nothing left of the original Phoenix Apparel Solutions Company. End of an era. I set my phone down on the nightstand and walked out onto our deck, Olivia joining me a moment later. The spring air was mild and fragrant, filled with the quiet promise of new beginnings, of limitless possibility. I thought briefly about Marcus Thorne, wondering, with a strange detachment, what he was doing now, where his ambition had taken him. I genuinely hoped he'd learned something valuable from his disastrous tenure at Phoenix Apparel, though. If I were being honest, I doubted it. Some people are immune to lessons. I thought about all those countless, demanding years spent building bridges, forging connections, pouring my energy into a company that, in the end, didn't truly value them or me. The late nights, the missed family dinners, the postponed vacations, the sacrifices had been undeniably real, and at times, deeply taxing. But so, too, were the enduring relationships I had painstakingly built along the way. Those were real, too. In the end, those invaluable relationships, built on mutual respect and unwavering trust, had followed me, not because I had asked them to, not because of any contractual obligation, but because we had, together, built something authentic, something meaningful. No spreadsheet, however complex, could ever capture that intangible, immeasurable value. No corporate restructuring, however ruthless, could ever erase it. The next morning, I arrived at my Apex Vanguard office early, feeling a sense of energy and purpose I hadn't felt in years. I reviewed our division's latest quarterly projections, now trending an astonishing 30% above our ambitious targets. I double-checked our client retention numbers, a remarkable 97%, the highest in Apex Vanguard's entire company history. Alistair Cole stopped by my office a little later, a satisfied grin on his face. Victor, good news. The board just unanimously approved your proposal, he said, leaning casually against the doorframe. The new employee ownership program officially starts next quarter. I've asked Julian Hayes and Clara Mendes to co-lead the implementation team. They were thrilled. I nodded, a surge of pride for my team welling up. They'll do it right, Alistair. They understand the value of empowering our people. You know, Victor, Alistair said, his expression growing more thoughtful. When all this chaos started with Phoenix Apparel, and we first talked about you coming aboard, I honestly thought we were just getting a highly talented, experienced executive and access to some potentially lucrative client relationships. He paused, then met my gaze directly. I didn't fully realize at the time that we were actually getting a completely different and, frankly, a much better way of doing business. Relationships over transactions, Alistair, I replied simply, a core belief etched into my professional DNA. Always. It's the only way to build something that truly lasts. After he left, I opened the bottom drawer of my desk and removed the slightly tarnished fishing trophy the team from Titan Holdings had given me all those years ago. It felt good in my hand. I carefully placed it on the shelf in my office, right next to a collection of new, framed photos of my dedicated, smiling team at Apex Vanguard Outfitters, captured during our recent team building retreat. I didn't need revenge against Phoenix Apparel or Marcus Thorne. That was never my goal. I didn't need public vindication, though the industry articles had provided a certain ironic satisfaction. I just needed the opportunity, the freedom, to build something meaningful, something of genuine value, something that would truly last. And this time, with this team, in this company, I knew with absolute certainty that I finally had.